The year I was most despised, I was sent back to the orphanage 3 times in a row by foster families, because I'm not just argumentative by nature, I've also got a sharp tongue, until the 10th couple arrived at the orphanage with a little boy. Suddenly, bullet comments appeared before my eyes. The young villainous master grew up surrounded by flattery, raised to be arrogant and conceited. Anyone who dares to contradict him would face ruin in minutes. The villainous parents were truly at their wits' end, which is why they decided to adopt a docile child, hoping to subtly influence the villain. A docile child, well, that has nothing to do with me. I yawned listlessly when suddenly an arrogant voice rang out, "Mom, look, that yawning little girl is so chubby." I instinctively frowned and immediately retorted, "What do you mean chubby? Are your eyes crusted shut?" The young antagonist stared at me in stunned silence. After a full 10 seconds of deathly silence, he suddenly burst into loud sobs, his face flushed crimson from crying, yet he still managed to issue commands. "Mommy, she dared to talk back to me, I'll make her family ruined." It must be said, he was truly beautiful to look at. Even crying like that, you could still tell her nose was a nose and eyes were eyes, but the other children in the orphanage had no time to appreciate it. They were all terrified stiff, they stood frozen in place. Heads bowed motionless. Before my eyes appeared rows upon rows of bullet comments again. Because none of the children wanted to play with me, I could only read books alone, so I learned many characters, and I could basically understand most of them. She looks like such a cute little girl, yet her attack power is so strong. That's because she doesn't know how terrifying the villain will become later. As a child, the villain was merely spoiled, but after growing up, they became utterly lawless. Just because he couldn't win the heroine's love, he imprisoned her and broke the male lead's legs right before her eyes, chaining him up like a dog. Thankfully this little girl didn't meet the villain family's adoption criteria, otherwise she'd never know how she died later. I also set my mind at ease. Obedience and I weren't even remotely acquainted, as long as they didn't adopt me, no matter how wicked the villain was. It had nothing to do with me. The beautiful aunt apologized profusely to teacher Jiang at the orphanage. "This child was spoiled rotten by her grandparents when she was little. There's nothing I can do about it." Teacher Jiang responded with even greater remorse. "Not at all, Yuan was just born this way. I'm even more powerless to change it, only me, a tiny figure standing there alone." I straightened my back and shook my head solemnly at the young master. "You can't possibly ruin my family, because first of all, I don't have one." The young master suddenly stopped crying mid-sob. He stared blankly at me as I let out a hiccup. His little face suddenly flushed red before he shouted at me fiercely, "How could that be? Don't you have parents?" Tilting my head, I looked at him puzzled. "Is that a tumor on your neck? Don't you even know where you are right now?" The young master froze, only then remembering he was currently at the orphanage. He panted angrily, momentarily at a loss for words. His mouth opened and closed repeatedly as his entire face turned red. His most skilled threats were utterly useless against me. He began to panic slightly. Turning around, he lunged at the pretty auntie, flailing his little fists wildly against her thighs, sobbing uncontrollably. His snot and tears became a messy blur. "Mommy, make her go away. I don't like her. I don't want to see her." A trace of weariness flashed across the beautiful aunt's face. Teacher Jiang immediately came over to take my hand and said apologetically, "Madam Gu, I'm so sorry, I'll take Yuan back right away." The pretty aunt was about to intervene when Teacher Jiang looked at me and said sternly, Yuan, go apologize to your brother, and then we'll go home." Teacher Jiang had always been kind to me, even when I was returned by adoptive families several times. She never blamed me. I didn't want to make things difficult for her, so I reluctantly walked toward the little young master. He watched me warily, clinging tightly to the beautiful aunt's leg. I stood stiffly before him, smoothing out my faded little dress. Softly, I said, "I'm sorry, brother." The young master snorted lightly with his chin raised, his face once again wearing an arrogant expression. At that moment, the genes buried deep in my bones began acting up again. I held back again and again, but ultimately couldn't resist, so I added another sentence. "Tell me which words of mine hurt you." "I want to say it again." The young master's eyes slowly widened as he stared at me in disbelief. The more I looked at his face, the more aggrieved his expression became. The next second, his brows furrowed and his nose turned red. he buried his head in the beautiful auntie's lap and started wailing again. Through his sobs, he kept mumbling incoherently, "Mom, she's bullying me." "Your precious baby is being bullied," I instinctively retorted. "I'm not bullying you, I'm just not being particularly friendly," he cried even louder. The noise was driving me crazy, so I covered my ears and turned away. Teacher Jiang quickly pulled me aside, glaring at me with exasperation. "Can't you just hold your tongue? Go back to your room." I shrugged and lifted my foot, ready to head back on my own. Suddenly, the handsome uncle who had been silent all this time stopped me. "Your name is Yuan, right? Wait a moment." He exchanged glances with the beautiful aunt, then said to Teacher Jiang with a smile, "Teacher Jiang, we've decided, we'll take her." The little master, who had been busy crying, suddenly stopped his tears. He raised his head, looking at his parents with shocked eyes. Even Teacher Jiang tried to persuade them. "Don't you want to reconsider? The little master doesn't seem to like Yuan." The handsome uncle interrupted Teacher Jiang. "Given the circumstances, we'd like to try unconventional methods." The handsome uncle squatted before me and whispered in my ear, Yuan, would you like to live with us?" I really don't want to live with the villain, and was just about to object. Suddenly, rows of bullet comments appeared before my eyes. "Wait, shouldn't the villain's family adopt the well-behaved female lead? Although this little girl looks adorable, she's not the female lead. She'll be killed by the villain soon." The female lead was standing among that group of children, completely terrified. I glanced at the little kids standing nearby. Several girls kept their heads bowed, not daring to make a sound. I couldn't tell which one they were referring to as the female lead, otherwise I would have definitely pushed her out. The barrage of comments continued scrolling, though the villain's family has nothing but money. Living by the villain's side means you might get rich but won't live to spend it. Exactly, the villain's family gives their adult children a trust fund worth $1 billion, but only if they survive till 18. Wait, you're only telling me such important information now. I immediately grabbed the handsome uncle's large hand with my chubby little one and nodded emphatically. "Yes, Daddy, I'm willing." The young master suddenly pointed at me and shouted, "Shut up, he's my dad, not yours." "I don't care, whoever gives me $1 billion is my dad." The retort was already on the tip of my tongue, but I forced myself to swallow it back down. The handsome uncle looked at my restrained expression and said somewhat unhappily, Yuan, we adopted you because we want you to be yourself without any worries." He encouraged me with gentle eyes, and suddenly I understood. Pretty uncle wanted me to fight poison with poison. To keep the young master in check, that's easy. Whoever forks out $1 billion gets to call the shots. I immediately put on a serious face and said to the young master, "No, big bro, since your dad adopted me, that makes him my dad too." The young master flushed red with anger again. He plopped down on the floor, rolling around while crying and screaming. "I say what goes. I don't care. I don't want you in my house." Frowning, I looked at him with utter confusion and asked, "Brother, are you perhaps Aristotle's younger sibling, Jenny Aristotle?" The young master suddenly fell silent. A hint of naive foolishness shone through his gaze as he looked at me. His bewildered expression told me that my current level of education had completely surpassed his. I shook my head regretfully. God showered wisdom upon the world, but held an umbrella especially for my dear brother. The young master still didn't seem to understand, staring wide-eyed and stammering. What do you mean?" I tugged at the handsome uncle's sleeve. "Dad, at least let big brother get some schooling. Our family can't have illiterates." The little young master finally understood this sentence. His little face turned crimson, his lips quivered, and he burst into loud sobs again. The handsome uncle looked at him and sighed with frustration at his failure to improve. Bullet comments flew across the screen rapidly. "The villain's finally getting what's coming to him. Serves him right." The little girl licked her lips, only to realize she'd been poisoned. But if the villain's family never adopts the female lead, how's he supposed to fall for her later? That's perfect. Without the villain messing things up, our Yao Yao and the male lead can sail straight to their sweet happily ever after. Stop dreaming. The more you miss now, the more Yandere and obsessive the villain will become when you meet again later. Yao Yao, an image of a girl with big eyes surfaced in my mind. So she's the female lead. But I had already boarded the car leaving the orphanage. Despite the young master's crying and tantrums, my adoptive father and mother took me away that very day. To prevent any fights between me and the young master in the car, my adoptive mother and I got into another vehicle. On the way home, I learned the young master's name. His name is Gu Ingen, 6 years old this year, just a few months older than me, yet his capacity for destruction is astonishing. At home, he reigns as emperor. Which servant in the household would dare discipline him, oppose him, or cause him the slightest displeasure? He would cry and fuss overnight until someone got fired and driven away. The Gu family's servants and butler all tread carefully, afraid of displeasing him. The car gradually entered an upscale and luxurious residential complex, surrounded by lush trees with murmuring streams flowing by, like a place where princesses live in fairy tales. I pressed my face against the car window, gazing curiously at the scenery outside. The car stopped in front of a magnificent golden building. Following my adoptive mother into the house, I stood dumbfounded looking at the palace-like residence. Gu Ingen arrived earlier than me. When he saw me, he snorted disdainfully and turned his head away arrogantly. He shouted loudly in the living room, telling the butler he wanted to ride a horse. I thought we kept horses at home and stared intently, waiting for the horse to appear. At that moment, a very tall, straight-backed older brother came running out. With a thud, he knelt down prostrate before Gu Ingen. "Young master, please mount up." His adoptive mother's face darkened as she suppressed her anger and said, "Gu Ingen, you're far too old for this. Stop playing horsey with the butler." Gu Ingen started screaming again. "I don't care. I want to play. I must play. I even want to ride a horse up the stairs." The foster mother's lips twitched as she struggled to maintain proper decorum. But I could sense her fury was about to erupt. The butler brother crouched down with a placating smile. "Madam, the young master is still just a playful child. Let me keep him company for a while. It's no trouble." The adoptive mother sighed. "Shall he? You'll spoil him rotten if you indulge him like this." The butler brother was just about to speak when Gu Ingen climbed onto his back. "Run fast. Giddy up, run fast." The butler brother immediately broke into a wide smile and began crawling around the living room with Gu Ingen on his back. As they passed by me, Gu Ingen said haughtily, "You country bumpkin, you've never played horse riding before, have you? Horse riding is so much fun." I pouted my little mouth and blurted out, "It's not that fun, really. The last time I saw people riding horses like this was in a TV drama. Most of those horse-riding princes ended up dying pretty tragically." Gu Ingen's body tilted sideways. She hastily jumped down from the steward's back. Her face flushed crimson with anger as she pointed at me and shrieked, "You country bumpkin, how dare you curse me to die?" The butler brother remained lying prone on the ground after Gu Ingen had left, watching me with eyes wide as saucers. He frantically shook his head at me. I mimicked his vigorous head shaking, then said with utmost seriousness, "I didn't do anything wrong, brother. I was just helping you overcome illiteracy. An empty head isn't a problem. We can fill it up. The real issue is keeping water from getting in. Brother, shake your head and listen. Do you hear the sound of the ocean?" The butler drew a sharp breath and closed his eyes as if resigning himself to fate, bracing for the coming storm. Sure enough, Gu Ingen trembled with rage. Her little face scrunched up as she shouted, "You country bumpkin, just you wait, I'll ruin your family." I sighed and looked at him sympathetically. "I'm afraid that won't work, brother. Did your cerebellum develop incompletely while your cerebrum didn't develop at all? Have you forgotten again? Now my home is your home. Did you ask Mom's permission before deciding to ruin our family?" He fell right into my trap. Left speechless for a long while, turning away with a flushed face, he ran to his adoptive mother, tugging at her sleeve while throwing a tantrum. "Mom, she dared to oppose me. I don't want her. Send her back." His adoptive mother completely ignored him, instead gently taking my hand and saying, Yuan, play in the living room for a while first. Mommy will go change clothes and then show you around." "Okay." I was so moved I almost cried. This was the first time an adult hadn't scolded me for being too aggressive. I tried my best to behave very obediently. "Mom, you go ahead. I'll wait for you in the living room." Gu Ingen still clung stubbornly to his adoptive mother's clothes, gazing at her with pleading eyes. His adoptive mother helplessly pried his small hands away and said slowly, word by word, "Gu Ingen, from now on Yuan will be your little sister. Everything you have, she will have too." My foster mother finished speaking and hummed a tune as she went upstairs. Gu Ingen stood frozen in shock, hanging his head dejectedly. My foster mother's words firmly established my status within the Gu family, and warmed my heart as well. I ignored Gu Ingen and wandered around the living room by myself. The Gu family's living room was enormous. It felt bigger than the entire orphanage. Curious, I touched this and examined that. Unable to believe this would be my home from now on, suddenly a childish sneer sounded behind me. Humph, country bumpkin, not only looks a bit rustic but also lacks sophistication. Well, Gu Ingen realized he couldn't drive me away, so he started attacking me instead. Without even turning his head, he said, "Not bad, my rusticity happens to be just enough to bury you." Once again, I'd managed to infuriate him. He stomped over to me angrily. Glaring at me with knitted brows, he demanded, "Is it because your mom and dad have your back that you're acting so cocky?" I thought for a moment and shook my head. "No, mine is natural. So are you acting so arrogantly because you're protected by the Animal Association?" Gu Ingen froze for 2 seconds before realizing what I meant. His finger trembled as he pointed at me, completely losing his composure and shrieking, "You're such a foul-mouthed girl. Watch out or no man will want you when you grow up." I curled my lips and replied calmly, "That's not necessarily true, but you're so wonderful, brother. I'm sure plenty of men will be fighting over you when you grow up." Gu Ingen stared at me dumbfounded, utterly speechless. The barrage of comments is full of praise for me. "Sis, you shut him down so well. Someone needed to teach that bratty villain a lesson. Sis, lend me your mouth. I really need it right now. That mouth of yours is like it's dipped in poison." First time I've seen a villain wear such an existential crisis expression. Am I the only one worried that if the villain reforms, he won't force love on the female lead anymore? I really ship this couple. The harsher little sister scolds him now, the more amazed he'll be when he meets our sweet female lead later, and the deeper he'll fall in love. Exactly, little sister, go all out. We've got your back. I couldn't care less about how Gu Ingen and the female lead end up. The most important thing is that I must come of age in the Gu family, of course. If I can incidentally help my foster parents resolve a major concern, I'd be more than happy to. Just then, my foster mother came downstairs and waved at me. I ran toward my adoptive mother with a beaming smile. After touring the house with my adoptive mother, dinner was ready. My adoptive father had urgent business and went out, leaving only my adoptive mother, myself, and Gu Ingen at home. The butler brother laid out an exquisite dinner spread on the dining table. Finally, he came to my side, served me generous portions of food, and said with a smile, "Young miss, tell me which dishes you like, and I'll make more for you in the future." I had never seen such exquisitely prepared food before. I simply couldn't resist. Sweetly, I replied to the butler brother, "Thank you, brother He." Then he immediately buried his head in his plate, wolfing down the food. Unexpectedly, the butler wiped the corner of his eye nearby, muttering excitedly, "You actually said thank you, what a good child." I kept chewing while thinking to myself, just how rude had Gu Ingen been all this time. A simple, "thank you," from me even brought tears to the butler's eyes. Sitting across from me, Gu Ingen seemed determined to compete with me. He took a bite from his plate and murmured like a mosquito, "The dinner tonight is delicious. Thank you, brother He." The butler froze on the spot like a statue. It wasn't until the adoptive mother said with a faint smile, He, "come sit down and eat," that the butler snapped out of his daze and stiffly pulled out a chair to sit down. But Gu Ingen's manners didn't last long. I was enjoying my meal when he suddenly snorted at me rudely, "Country bumpkin, eat less rice. Look how fat you've gotten." Without even lifting my head from the plate, my mouth stuffed full, I replied, "Where am I fat? I'm just good at absorbing nutrients. Bro, you should eat less salt. Look how idle it's made you." Gu Ingen got roasted by me again, his eyes widening as he stared at me. He couldn't figure out why every single thing he said got countered by me. He refused to accept defeat and opened his mouth to attack me again. "You're fat and dark-skinned. Nothing like a child of the Gu family." Finally, I lifted my head from my plate, sat up straight, and said, "How am I not? I'm just not as shallow as you are, brother." After I finished speaking, Gu Ingen furrowed his brows in confusion. I knew it, he still didn't understand the sophisticated word, superficial. So, kindly picking up my chopsticks, I served him a piece of fish. "Eat more fish, brother, it's good for your brain." Gu Ingen finally understood, her face instantly turning as red as a monkey's bottom. "You're calling me stupid again." I comforted him. "It's all right, big brother. Eating fish can make up for it. Only," he glared at me, "only what?" I smiled, "Only that given the gap between you and me, you'd probably need to eat a whole pair of whales to make up for it." Guingen stared at me blankly, completely crushed. The barrage comments went wild with laughter. "Your sister's mouth is too sharp." She completely stunned the villain. At an age when he couldn't even control his bladder, the villain learned to control his emotions. Can't deny it. Mom and Dad chose the right path as evil cultivators. In less than half a day, the villain's gaze has already cleared up significantly. Pfft. A very soft sound came from beside me. I turned my head and was surprised to see my adoptive mother with her head bowed, her shoulders trembling slightly. She lifted her head, struggling to suppress a smile as she said, "Seeing you two getting along so well puts my mind at ease." My adoptive mother is an intelligent woman who manages a large company, but she profoundly misunderstands the relationship between me and Gu Ingen. She always thinks our constant bickering whenever we meet is a sign of closeness. 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye since I came to the Gu family. Over these 10 years, I blossomed into a graceful young woman. The only thing that remained unchanged was my sharp tongue, still venomous beyond measure. Gu Ingen had also shot up into a tall, strapping young man, standing a full head taller than me. The girls at school were all blinded by his handsome looks, waiting for an hour in the cold wind just to catch a glimpse of him. I couldn't understand it at all, though he had changed so much. He was no longer that arrogant little brat from childhood. Perhaps I suppressed him too much when we were children. He couldn't out-talk me, nor could he outstudy me. Over time, he reigned in all his arrogance and channeled all his energy into finding ways to defeat me. His academic performance kept improving. He was courteous and polite to everyone. Of course, I'm the exception. He still doesn't show me the slightest courtesy. I just don't know when it started, but he stopped calling me country bumpkin, yet he never calls me little sister either. What a thoroughly contradictory person. After moving up to high school, Gu Ingen and I were still in the same class, but we barely spoke at school. I was sharp-tongued and antisocial, preferring solitude. He was quite popular though, constantly surrounded by admirers. The first day of the second semester in my sophomore year of high school, I applied the tinted moisturizer my adoptive mother gave me. I had just reached that age where I started caring about my appearance, occasionally fussing over how I looked. Little did I know, the moment I went downstairs, I locked eyes with Gu Ingen. He twitched the corner of his mouth and asked me, genuine question, "Do you wear makeup to cover up your ugliness?" Having spent so much time with me, he'd become quite the master of sarcasm himself, but I wasn't fazed in the slightest. The moment I opened my mouth, he'd find out. "What do you mean by, your uncle will always be your uncle?" I flipped my hair and smiled at him. "No, are you wearing pants to cover up your shortcomings?" His brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. He's not as hot-tempered as he was in childhood anymore. When he can't win an argument, he cries, squinting at me. He hissed through clenched teeth, "Just wipe off your makeup. You could go straight to Halloween like that." Walking to the entryway while putting on my shoes, I said, "What's so fun about Halloween? Just take your pants off and you can celebrate Children's Day right away." After saying that, I opened the door and walked out directly. Brother Xiao, he was already waiting for us in the car. Gu Ingen followed behind me, raging helplessly. "Gu Yuan, can't I even say a couple words to you?" Without turning around, I brushed him off. "You couldn't even if you wanted to. Not that I'd say anything about it." He suddenly fell silent, and I turned back to look at him. He stood there frowning at me, his face turning bright red. "Don't talk nonsense, as if you know everything," I retorted. "I don't know anything. I'm not interested in skinny guys." Gu Ingen's glare looked like it could kill me. Actually, he has a pretty good figure. I occasionally catch glimpses of him shirtless at home. Broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist, with cleanly defined muscle lines, but I bear the important responsibility of not letting him get too full of himself. I have an obligation to whip him. Upon entering the classroom, I walked toward my seat in the last row. Gu Ingen sat in front of me. There were only 2 empty seats left in the entire classroom. Gu Ingen used his money power to secure spots for both of us. I had just put down my backpack when the homeroom teacher walked in and rapped on the blackboard. "We have 2 transfer students joining us today. Let's give them a warm welcome." I looked up to see a tall, lanky boy standing at the podium. handsome with striking impact. His peach blossom eyes excitedly scanned the classroom. Standing beside him was a somewhat familiar-looking girl. She had straight bangs, large eyes, and appeared quiet and well-behaved. I was trying to remember where I'd seen this girl before. Suddenly, my vision was flooded with long unseen barrage comments. "Ah, the male lead is so handsome, the female lead is so beautiful, I really want to see the villain's expression right now. Has he already fallen for the female lead on the spot? Can't take his eyes off her, waiting eagerly for the showdown." So it was the male and female leads arriving. My gaze shifted to Gu Ying'an standing in the center of the classroom. He lay slumped over the desk without even lifting his head. I remember the original text described how the male lead transferred schools and actively requested to sit beside the female lead. The antagonist objected, and the two nearly came to blows. The male lead had been protected by the female lead when they were children. As an adult, he recognized her at first glance and came wagging his tail like a puppy. But look, Yao Yao keeps glancing at the antagonist, from the start. Yao Yao had feelings for her adoptive brother in the original story. It wasn't until the male lead persistently pursued her that she fell for him. This is going to be entertaining. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, sizing up the girl on the podium, 10 years apart. Who knows if she still remembers me? As if sensing my gaze, she suddenly turned her head, and our eyes met squarely. The moment our eyes met, she flusteredly looked away. I slowly curled the corners of my lips. Seems she hasn't forgotten. Just then, I felt a scorching gaze piercing through me. I tilted my head slightly and saw the male lead Shen-Yi staring straight at me. I felt a bit strange, but still stared back defiantly. His face flushed red as he inexplicably batted his eyelashes at me. I quickly averted my gaze, goosebumps rising all over my skin. Why does this person have absolutely no sense of boundaries? After introducing themselves, the homeroom teacher told them to find their own seats. Then she left the classroom. The only available seats were next to me and Gu Ying'an. Ning Yao walked straight toward Gu Ying'an. She stopped in front of Gu Ying'an, smiling brightly as she spoke. "Classmate, I'd like to sit next to you, may I?" Gu Ying'an seemed lost in thought, appearing not to hear as she didn't even lift her head. Ning Yao's smile froze, and she gently tapped on Gu Ying'an's desk. Gu Ying'an finally looked up, asking politely yet distantly, "Is there something you need?" Ning Yao stuck out her tongue slightly, pointing shyly at the seat beside him. "May I sit next to you?" Gu Ying'an hesitated for a moment, then suddenly turned to glance at me. I rolled my eyes at him. His face darkened instantly as he turned away, about to agree to Ning Yao. Just then, Shen-Yi from the lectern walked past Ning Yao with a radiant smile. Ning Yao thought Shen-Yi was looking for her. Frowning, she took a deep breath and said to him, "I'm sorry, Shen-Yi, but I can't sit next to you." Shen-Yi paused mid-step, giving her a strange look. "Are you okay? Who said anything about sitting next to you?" Ning Yao froze, her face alternating between green and pale. As she retorted, "You don't want to sit with me," Shen-Yi muttered, "ridiculous," under his breath before brushing past her. He stopped right in front of me. Flashing an annoyingly smug grin, he completely ignored everything around him, his eyes fixed intently on me, like staring at a prime cut of meat. The barrage of comments flooded with question marks. What the hell? The male lead isn't fighting the villain for the female lead anymore. Our precious female lead lost a dog. Don't panic upstairs. The male lead comes from a complicated family background. As the illegitimate child of a wealthy family, he's only survived by pretending to be weak. He has zero resistance towards innocent and kind-hearted girls like the female lead. He'll inevitably be drawn to her. Bullet comment, "You'd better be telling the truth." Just as Shen-Yi was about to pull out the chair to sit down, Gu Ying'an suddenly stood up, braced herself against the desk beside me, and vaulted over to the row behind. He hadn't even steadied himself before plopping down right next to me. Shen-Yi frowned deeply, staring at the person who'd suddenly appeared before him. Gu Ying'an took a deep breath and said, "She's my sister, I've got to look after her, you go sit up front." Shen-Yi suddenly looked bashful, fidgeting awkwardly as he said, "So you're her elder brother. Your sister is really cute, just my type. Do me a favor and help us get together, won't you?" This statement left both Gu Ying'an and me utterly stunned. I eyed Shen-Yi suspiciously, wondering what screw had come loose in his head. Gu Ying'an's carefully maintained politeness instantly crumbled. He leaped to his feet, pointing at Shen-Yi and shouting, "What's wrong with you? who the hell is your brother-in-law? After cursing Shen-Yi, he turned to curse at me, Gu Yuanyuan, have you not bathed recently? Where did you attract these flies? I suddenly didn't know how to respond. This was the first time Gu Ingen had left me speechless. The barrage comments have descended into complete chaos. The plot was supposed to be about the male lead and antagonist fighting over the female lead. How did it turn into them fighting over this random side character? This random character already stole the female lead's adopted daughter position, and now she's stealing both the male lead and antagonist too. Could it be that the female lead isn't a specific person, but rather whoever becomes the antagonist's sister automatically becomes the female lead? That original female lead is so pitiful. Not only did she lose her chance to be adopted into a wealthy family, but she also lost her destined romance. It's all that extra's fault. Why did she have to be such an attention seeker, a thief who stole someone else's fate? Exactly, our precious female lead is so pure and kind. She clearly didn't do anything wrong. I sneered inwardly. I don't know if the barrage speculation is correct, but if Ning Yao truly did nothing wrong, why wouldn't she dare to look me in the eye? Ning Yao stared at the situation before her with utter disbelief. Her hands tightly clutched the hem of her skirt, her face flushing crimson with embarrassment. Gu Ingen saw my silence and slapped me on the back, but he didn't use much force, just enough to snap me out of it. Gu Yuanyuan, you're usually so chatty. What? You've gone mute now. I was about to speak when Shen-Yi said with utter seriousness, brother-in-law, I admit it might seem abrupt to call you that now, but my feelings for Yuanyuan are genuine. If you're worried, I can pursue her right in front of you. Gu Ingen's face instantly darkened like spilled ink. Gnashing his teeth, he said, you want to pursue her, right before my eyes? Shen-Yi blinked his eyes and nodded vigorously. Absolutely, brother-in-law. I'll be under your supervision the whole time. Gu Ingen took a deep breath and remained silent for a few seconds. Suddenly, he turned his head to mock me. You've made it, Gu Yuanyuan. He wants to chase after you. Did you hear that? How bold of him to actually pursue me. This is truly rare. Ever since I was little, any boy who's spoken more than 2 sentences to me has ended up keeping their distance from me. Except for Gu Ingen, he was unavoidable. The familiar aggression filled my chest once more. I didn't hold back with Shen-Yi at all, opening my mouth to ask, what are you chasing me for? It's not like I'm holding dog food, but Shen-Yi didn't feel offended in the slightest. Instead, his eyes widened with excitement. It's true you don't have dog food, but Yuanyuan, do you think I resemble a dog? Forget being a dog. If you'd agree to be with me, I'd give you my life. Both Gu Ingen and I stood there utterly dumbfounded. Damn it, met my match. I've got to stay calm. I'll keep needling him. Why don't you just give me all your money instead, handing me nothing but worthless junk? Shen-Yi shook his head sincerely. Indeed, my life is worthless, but my feelings for you cannot be measured by money. Folks, how should I respond to this? The day has come when even I, Gu Yuanyuan, am driven into a corner. Luckily, the class bell finally rang at that moment, saving me. Shen-Yi took advantage of Gu Ingen's unpreparedness, shoved him aside, and plopped down next to me. He grinned cheekily at Gu Ingen. Thanks, bro-in-law. Gu Ingen was thoroughly enraged, suppressing his voice as he growled, shut up, I'm not her brother. Shen-Yi froze for just a second before adopting an expression like he was facing a formidable enemy. He immediately turned his head and leaned in to whisper to me, Yuanyuan, does he have a bad temper? He seems to get angry so easily. My mom said men with unstable emotions are no good. Every single word of this conversation clearly reached Gu Ingen's ears. Damn green tea bitch, what are you saying? He silently gritted these words through clenched teeth. The teacher happened to walk into the classroom at that exact moment. Gu Ingen shot Shen-Yi a fierce glare before reluctantly returning to his original seat. Shen-Yi shrank behind me, still unable to resist adding fuel to the fire. Yuanyuan, look how scary he is. I'm terrified. The barrage comments were all stunned. Wait a minute. The male lead's tea-scented behavior is so strong it's practically wafting through the screen. Villains are just born for fake sibling tropes. He's genuinely panicking. All that hard-earned refinement went straight to the dogs. He. I'm rooting for the male lead because I just can't resist that face of his. Do I really have to choose? I'll gladly take both the green tea male lead and the tsundere villain. To be honest, I'd love to have them all. But I don't dare, because Gu Ingen is staring at me like a ghost. During class, Shen-Yi said he forgot his textbook and insisted on sharing mine. He brought his handsome face so close to mine I could feel his breath. Here I was, a perfectly healthy 16-year-old girl. How could I possibly resist such temptation? Before I knew it, I found myself staring blankly at his profile. Coincidentally, the teacher stepped out just then. Leaving us to study on our own, Shen-Yi suddenly let out a soft chuckle. Yuan, the look in your eyes when you like someone can't be hidden. I snapped awake instantly, my mouth moving faster than my brain. But you've got to keep it hidden if you like more than two people. Shen-Yi wasn't angry at all, watching me with a smile. True enough, so who do you like? I snorted coldly. There are plenty. Chairman Mao, Benjamin Franklin, John Monash. To my surprise, he actually understood. Indeed, I like them too. I opened my mouth, not knowing what to say. This kind of attack of mine only works on illiterates like Gu Ying'an. A surge of frustration rushed to my head, making my face flush red with heat. Shen-Yi suddenly shoved his face right in front of mine. Yuan, your blushing face is so adorable. I swatted his head away impatiently. Watch your words. I'm afraid I'll get diabetes. He remained smiling and nodded. Then I won't say it, but sooner or later, I'll devour you. At that moment, Gu Ying'an suddenly turned his head. Veins pulsing on his forehead, his gaze was eerily fixed on us as he spoke in a mocking tone. You two seem to be getting along quite well. Should I inform Mom to prepare your dowry in advance? I was genuinely afraid he'd report this to our foster mother. After all, it was usually me who teased him about the girls chasing after him. This was the first time he'd managed to get dirt on me. I quickly declared with righteous indignation. His freeloader's teeth aren't strong enough to chew through my tough bones. Gu Ying'an arched an eyebrow smugly at Shen-Yi upon hearing my words. Shen-Yi wasn't the least bit discouraged. Instead, he started gossiping right by my ear. Yuan, men who tattle aren't any good either. The smugness at the corner of Gu Ying'an's mouth froze instantly as he reached out to grab Shen-Yi by the collar. You damn green tea bitch. What are you muttering about now? At this moment, Ning Yao suddenly turned around with furrowed brows and spoke with a beaming smile. Classmate Gu, I really envy you. You're so popular with boys. Is it because you know how to do makeup? I never wear any myself. The gazes of all three of us instantly turned toward her. The smell is overpowering. Even Gu Ying'an's eyes flashed with disgust. I remained silent for a moment. Originally, I wanted to observe her a bit longer, but since she insists on throwing herself at me, then I won't hold back. I sized her up with the practiced gaze I'd honed over years, rubbing shoulders with old money circles, curling my lip as I said, you really don't need makeup. You're already so good at pretending. She froze momentarily before quickly plastering that insincere smile back on her face. Oh yes, I've always gone barefaced. Your makeup is so heavy though. Doesn't the teacher scold you? I'm really about to burst out laughing. I struggled to suppress the corners of my mouth. Staring straight at her as I said, not at all, our school is very open-minded. You're looking a bit pale. Want me to slap some blush onto your cheeks? A fleeting trace of smugness flashed through Ning Yao's eyes, but still biting her lips, she said, you're being so hostile. Gu, I didn't even bat an eyelid. You're being so disgusting. Ning Yao gave Gu Ying'an and Shen-Yi a pitiful glance. As a result, one of them watched me with amusement written all over their face, while the other gazed at me with starry-eyed admiration. No one paid her any attention whatsoever. Ning Yao showed a trace of unwillingness and continued pitifully, Yuan, I just wanted to ask your advice. How do you get so many boys to like you? No one likes me. She deliberately directed her last sentence at Gu Ying'an. Her tone seemed desperate to slap a label on her forehead. I'm such a good girl. I've never been in love, I sneered and retorted. Isn't it normal that nobody likes you? Don't you have any self-awareness? Why even ask? You, my retort left her pale and speechless. Neither of the two boys spoke up to defend her. Gu Ying'an enjoys it because he's inherently wicked and loves watching me tear into people, regardless of whether the other person is male or female. Though he's been putting on a gentlemanly facade these past few years, in reality, he's utterly rotten inside. Shen-Yi didn't know what was wrong with him. It felt like he'd been cursed. Only a handful of bullet comments showed sympathy for Ning Yao. Our female lead is so pitiful. This Gu Yuan needs to back off and make way for our Yao Yao. The female lead is truly miserable. Gu Yuan is deliberately targeting her. With such a vicious mouth, Why doesn't she just drop dead? The female lead still has a chance with the male lead. She protected him when they were kids, and he gave her a necklace. He must have mistaken someone else now, once she shows him the necklace. He'll kick Gu Yuanyuan to the curb. These bullet comments were praising me earlier for my sharp tongue, now they're telling me to drop dead. How fickle the world is. As soon as class ended, Gu Ying'an went to find their homeroom teacher. He must have used his money power again. The homeroom teacher switched seats for him and Shen Yi. His mood immediately improved a lot, even enough to bicker with me. I never noticed before. But your eyebrows look like caterpillars, quite adorable. I was reading when I heard this, slowly raising my head. I noticed long ago, your hairline resembles a receding shoreline, quite bald. Instead of getting angry, he laughed. You've been observing me so closely. The corners of his eyes lifted slightly as he smiled, that familiar face rippling with a hint of ambiguity. My heart skipped a beat, an odd sensation flooding my chest. Flustered, I quickly retorted, "It's your head reflecting light, it's dazzling my eyes." He wanted to say something but hesitated slightly, his gaze sweeping over Shen Yi's figure ahead. Then he quickly looked back at me and whispered, "It's you being too adorable, it's dazzling my heart." I was about to instinctively retort when suddenly I realized what he had said. My mouth hung open as I stared at him wide-eyed. He lowered his head, and a flush quickly crept from his neck to the tips of his ears. Just like when we were kids, his entire face turned red as a monkey's bottom. The afternoon sunlight just grazed his reddened earlobe, tracing a fuzzy golden outline. I momentarily lost my ability to form coherent sentences and quickly buried my face in my book. Damn you, Gu Ying'an, though I never considered you a brother, you never saw me as a sister either, fortunately. He didn't speak again. We both remained silent like this, finally enduring until school was over. He packed his bag before me and walked out of the classroom. I finished packing slowly and lifted my leg to leave. A pair of large hands suddenly grabbed my wrist from behind. I turned around to see Shen Yi asking me with slight shyness, "Yuan, are you free tonight?" A sinister gaze pierced through me, making my back prickle with unease and my hair stand on end. I immediately shook off Shen Yi's hand and refused. "No need, I have a bathroom at home." He chuckled, "You're really funny. Can I call you tonight when I miss you?" This I couldn't refuse at all. "Sure, Industrial and Commercial Bank or China Construction Bank." Shen Yi was extremely patient, taking a step closer to me, that handsome face abruptly enlarged before my eyes, his warm breath brushing against my earlobe. In a bewitching whisper, he said, "It's a phone call. Let's talk about something private." After saying that, he even blew a breath against my neck. A shiver ran through my whole body as I pushed him away abruptly and shouted, "No need, I'm not interested in your length." The entire classroom fell so silent you could hear the cicadas chirping outside the window. A voice so gloomy it seemed capable of wringing out water shattered the deathly stillness. "Gu Yuanyuan, why aren't you going home?" I whipped my head around to see Gu Ying'an standing at the classroom door. He stood with one hand in his pocket, gripping the classroom doorframe so tightly with the other that it nearly deformed. I feigned composure as I walked toward him. "Let's go home," Gu Ying'an silently warned Shen Yi with his gaze. Shen Yi smiled and waved at me. "See you tomorrow, Yuan." Then he said to Gu Ying'an as if praying, "Please, call in sick tomorrow." On the way home, Gu Ying'an cursed Shen Yi the entire journey. "Stay away from him. He's nothing but a toxic green tea bitch who's got ulterior motives." I wasn't speaking up for Shen Yi intentionally, just instinctively arguing against Gu Ying'an. What ulterior motives? He just genuinely likes me. Gu Ying'an widened his eyes and unconsciously raised his voice. "Be careful not to get scammed, or you'll be crying and begging me to save you." I pouted and said somewhat unhappily, "I'd never beg you. That'd be so embarrassing." Gu Ying'an was out of ideas and said angrily, "Mom said no puppy love before college." I nodded. "I wasn't planning to date now either. I'll wait until college." "Gu Yuanyuan, are you being deliberately obtuse? If you start dating, then what about me?" The air inside the car grew stifling. The butler brother frantically scanned the situation in the back seat through the rearview mirror. Gu Ying'an's face flushed crimson as she quickly turned her head toward the window. My face also burned red as I turned my head toward the opposite car window. The atmosphere instantly became extremely awkward. The butler cleared his throat softly twice, then pointed excitedly out the window and said, "Young master, young miss, look, That tree outside is truly enormous. Gu Ingen and I fell into even deeper silence. After returning home and finishing dinner, Gu Ingen and I each went back to our own rooms to study. I had just stepped onto the stairs when Gu Ingen sidestepped to block my path. His brows were tightly knitted, his tone rigid. "You're not allowed to call Shen-Yi tonight. I'm watching you." I rolled my eyes at him irritably. "Gu Ingen, are you out of your mind?" His voice carried anger. "If I weren't crazy, I wouldn't be talking to you." "Not bad, Gu Ingen, your skills have improved." I immediately changed my expression, pouting pitifully. "You're so mean. Maybe you should go guard the gate instead of Big Yellow, Gu Yuanyuan." He practically spat my name through clenched teeth. I shoved past him with my shoulder and went straight upstairs. That night, Gu Ingen was strutting around like a peacock in full display. First, he came knocking at my door every 10 minutes, holding a workbook and asking math questions so stupid they were downright ridiculous. At first, his clothes were still properly worn. After a while, they turned into a loosely tied sleeping robe. The collar hung open all the way down to his waist. A little later, he ran in completely bare-chested. I grabbed a copy of 5-3 and hurled it at him. "Gu Ingen, are you some kind of exhibitionist?" He nimbly sidestepped it while casually flipping his hair. Then he flexed his arm muscles, striking an even more defined pose. "It's so greasy it makes me sick. What's the hurry? I was just going to take a shower and thought I'd drop by." I jumped up and started pushing him straight out the door. "You wouldn't be in a hurry if a dog was in heat over you." Shutting him outside the door, I realized my face was burning hot. Thanks to Gu Ingen, I dreamed of him all night, that sharply angular and sarcastic face. The next day, I arrived at school with 2 deep dark circles under my eyes. Shen-Yi approached me as soon as he saw me. "Yuan, did you miss me so desperately last night? You've lost so much weight overnight." I was in a terrible mood, and my words turned even sharper. "No matter how thin I get, I'll never be as thin as you. You and your coffin wouldn't even weigh 2 pounds together." He made a dramatic gesture of coughing up blood, then glanced at the empty seat beside me and asked half-jokingly, "Did Gu Ingen not come? Could it be my prayers actually worked?" Hearing that name made me feel lightheaded all over. I quickly shook my head to banish him from my thoughts. "I don't know." Gu Ingen and I had just arrived at school in the morning when he received a text message. He glanced at his phone, his expression changed slightly, and he headed straight for the laboratory. Coincidentally, Shen-Yi also happened to check his phone at that very moment. He frowned slightly, paused, and said, "I'm going out for a moment." No sooner had he left than the homeroom teacher walked into the classroom, scanning the room. He told me to call back the 3 absent students around me. He had something to announce. I called Gu Ingen, and he actually hung up on me. I reluctantly walked out of the classroom, heading first in the direction Gu Ingen had gone. Just as I reached the lab door, I spotted 3 figures through the glass pane. The very people the homeroom teacher had asked me to find were all gathered here. As I was about to push the door open, Gu Ingen's icy voice came from inside. "Repeat what you just said to him again." Ning Yao gazed tenderly at Shen-Yi and spoke softly. "I just revealed to Ingen what kind of person his adopted sister really is. He didn't believe me. He said he spent every day with Gu Yuanyuan all these years and knows her character best. So I had no choice but to call you here as proof." Shen-Yi frowned and asked impatiently, "What do you want me to testify?" Ning Yao's expression turned somewhat sorrowful as she spoke slowly. "Shen-Yi, have you mistaken me for someone else?" She opened her palm, revealing a red cord-woven necklace lying upon it. Shen-Yi's expression changed abruptly. "How did this end up with you?" Just as Shen-Yi reached out to take the necklace, Ning Yao withdrew it. Frowning, she spoke with absolute conviction. "Because this is exactly what you gave me with your own hands back when I protected you at the orphanage, isn't it?" "Back in the orphanage." It was Gu Yuanyuan who led the bullying against other children. Their favorite target was me, hitting my head, stealing my food, tearing my clothes. But then one day you arrived, and they turned their cruelty toward you. When they threw stones at you, it was me who stood up to protect you. You only stayed at the orphanage for 3 days. When you left, you gave me this necklace." Shen-Yi stared motionlessly at Ning Yao, his expression strangely unreadable. Gu Ingen grew impatient and muttered a low curse under his breath. "What the hell am I doing wasting my time with you all here?" With that, his face darkened as he turned to leave. Ning Yao panicked and reached out to grab him. "Ingen," with both witnesses and physical evidence present, How can you still not believe it? Your sister is the bully. Gu Ying'an recoiled from Ning Yao as if electrocuted, roaring, "What kind of person Gu Yuanyuan is? You don't need to tell me. Who the hell do you think you are?" Ning Yao shrank back in fright, the corners of her eyes instantly reddening with moisture as tears welled up. She trembled and said, "I just didn't want you to be kept in the dark. She's been jealous of me since childhood. When I saw her again, I didn't want to expose her, but as you've seen, she's been targeting me constantly. I was so scared that I decided to reveal the truth to you, Ying'an. Actually, when your parents brought you to the orphanage back then, I wanted to expose her and stop you from adopting her, but I was too afraid at the time, so I backed down. Now, I can't let her hurt anyone else. It's my duty to speak up." I was about to throw up. Ning Yao finished her heartfelt speech, to which Gu Ying'an responded with a sarcastic remark. "How brilliant, do you know how to spell gun in English?" Before Ning Yao could react, Gu Ying'an threw out another sentence, "Get lost." After cursing him out, he strode toward the door, but Shen Yi called out to stop him. "Wait, don't you want to know the truth?" Gu Ying'an halted mid-step. "I'm already tired of listening." Before Shen Yi could continue speaking, I pushed the door open and walked straight in. "Ning Yao, what brand of plastic bag are you? How can you be so full of yourself? Which company did you sign with? How can you act so well? How do you take care of your skin? How can it be so thick? Which sewer cover was left open, letting you crawl out again? Did you rub laxative on your lips? Can't open your mouth without spewing shit. If you can't do makeup, at least you know how to eat, right? Have some cosmetics to improve your inner beauty." I finished my tirade in one breath as Ning Yao took frightened steps backward. "Don't let her come near me, I'm scared." Of course, no one paid her any attention. Gu Ying'an instantly appeared by my side. Shen Yi pouted as she sidled up to me, complaining plaintively, Yuan, how did the necklace I gave you years ago end up in her hands?" When Ning Yao was twisting the truth earlier, everything came back to me. Years ago, I protected a little boy from Ning Yao. He had been abandoned at an orphanage by his mother, but soon after, the boy's mother regretted her decision and came back to take him away. Before he left, he gave me a necklace engraved with his name. The next day, Ning Yao snatched that necklace away. Back in the orphanage days, Ning Yao was the princess. She made all the children obey her and be her slaves. Whoever dared to resist, she would lead the bullying against them. Because I was introverted and rebellious by nature, I became her primary target for bullying. Everything Ning Yao just mentioned were things she had done to me. With a cold laugh, I jerked my chin toward Ning Yao. "Ask her, how did something that should rightfully be mine end up in her hands?" Ning Yao trembled violently as she shook her head, her voice sharp with desperation. "This is mine. It's proof that I protected Shen Yi." With those words, she suddenly lunged at Shen Yi, her eyes bloodshot as she clutched his arm with a death grip. "Shen Yi, you gave this to me with your own hands. Look carefully. Your name is engraved here. It can't be fake." Shen Yi pried her fingers open, took back the necklace, his voice icy. "The necklace is real, but you, a fake will always be a fake. I may have forgotten many things, I can't even remember who hurt me, but the girl who fought desperately to protect me, her face, I could never mistake it, even in death. I found out long ago that she was adopted by the Gu family. I transferred schools just for her." I stared blankly at Shen Yi. No wonder he launched such a fierce pursuit the moment he saw me. I'd long forgotten what that little boy I protected all those years ago looked like. Yet he had kept my image intact in his heart all these years, but I couldn't reciprocate this burning passion. Ning Yao staggered backward a few steps before collapsing onto a chair. Her gaze grew vacant as she kept repeating, "It shouldn't be like this. I saw it in my dreams. I'm supposed to be the heroine. They should all love me." Only I understood what she meant. The barrage comments no longer held any sympathy for Ning Yao. Oh my God, so she was the bully all along. Serves her right. She was supposed to live a true princess life, but who told her to be a bully? Bullies don't deserve it. The male lead scores big points here. Thank goodness he remembered what his white moonlight looked like, or the bully would have twisted black and white. The antagonist truly loved her. From start to finish, he stood firmly by Yuan's side. "Stop arguing. Just schedule shifts for both of them. What nonsense are these bullet comments saying?" I walked out of the laboratory with flushed cheeks. Gu Ying'an followed behind me and made a phone call. I knew it would happen soon. I couldn't see Ning Yao at school anymore. On the way back to the classroom, I decided to have a clear talk with Shen Yi, so I found an excuse to send Gu Ying'an away first. He seemed reluctant and even gave Shen Yi a threatening look before leaving. Only Shen Yi and I were left. After holding it in for a long time, I finally spoke. Shen Yi, I'm really happy that you'll always remember me, but the words got stuck after that. I didn't know how to say it. Shen Yi smiled instead, responding with remarkable ease. But I arrived too late to come between you two, didn't I? I froze momentarily, instinctively retorting, what nonsense, no, there's nothing between us. Shen Yi chuckled lightly, reaching out to tousle my hair. Yuan, you're still just as uncommunicative as when you were little. With that, he waved at me and turned to head back to the classroom first. When I followed inside, Gu Ying'an was sitting there with a stern face, his brows knitted tightly together. His expression only relaxed when he saw me. The moment I sat down, he leaned in and asked quietly, what were you talking about? Why did it take so long? Remembering Shen Yi's words just now, I felt inexplicably irritated. She raised her hand to push his head away, grumbling irritably, can't help it, unlike you. Who does everything so fast? Gu Ying'an was instantly speechless, his ears flushing crimson. After struggling for a long moment, he finally gritted his teeth and said, Gu Yuan, your mouth is vicious. You should really fix that. I replied with a grin, you're so patient. Just bear with it. The college entrance exam celebration banquet ended. I drank some beer with classmates and stumbled home feeling dizzy. Both foster parents were away on business trips. With only Gu Ying'an's room emitting a faint glow of light, the sound of splashing water came from inside. Bullet comments chattered incessantly before my eyes. Yuan, go for it, check quickly. If it's no good, return it. The male lead hasn't run far yet. You kept saying villains were too short-lived before. What'll you do now that they really are? I'd say we should have just scheduled shifts for the villain and male lead from the start. Drunk on courage, I climbed the stairs and slipped into Gu Ying'an's room. I kept hypnotizing myself. I'm drunk, so nothing that happens can be blamed on me. Step by step, I approached the bathroom, my heart pounding in my throat. Pushing open the bathroom door, steam fogged up my vision. Before I could see clearly, everything went black. The lights were turned off, and I was lifted and thrown onto the bed. Scorching breath brushed against my neck as a teasing voice sounded above me. Don't tell me you came to the wrong room. My head was spinning, making it impossible to think straight. I could only rely on instinct and subconsciously retort, I wasn't. I deliberately walked into your room. Oh, Gu Ying'an's voice was full of delight. Then you didn't come into my room looking for me, did you? I retorted. Who says? I came specifically to see you. Gu Ying'an paused deliberately, drawing out her words. Then you came to find me, probably not wanting to do anything with me. I said righteously, how could that be? I want to do everything with you. The air around us suddenly fell silent. A few seconds later, only Gu Ying'an's deep exhale could be heard. You said it yourself, Gu Yuan. I lay wide-eyed, staring nervously at the pitch-black ceiling, waiting for what was about to happen. Suddenly, the lights overhead flickered on. Adoptive father and mother squeezed into Gu Ying'an's room holding a cake. Congratulations, sweethearts. The college entrance exams are finally over. The sound abruptly ceased. I rolled off Gu Ying'an's bed in one swift motion. My previously dizzy head instantly cleared. Gu Ying'an lay sideways on the bed wearing a robe, striking an unbearably provocative pose. I stared dumbfounded at my adoptive parents, stammering as I tried to explain, Mom, Dad. My adoptive mother came rushing toward me. Oh my God, sweetheart. You must have finally gone blind to fall for Gu Ying'an. Mom is absolutely thrilled. I've been so worried that you'd all go your separate ways someday, leaving Gu Ying'an to revert back to his old lonely self. Now everything's perfect. My greatest worry has been completely resolved. Husband, hurry up and bring the gifts for the children. The adoptive father immediately produced 2 documents from behind his back. They're 2 funds worth 1 billion yuan. We promised to give them to you when you came of age. Now that you've finished your college entrance exams, you're free to choose the life you want. My adoptive father and mother hugged me affectionately, each planted a kiss on my cheek, then left the bedroom hand in hand. Before closing the door, my foster mother winked at us and said, we're going out and we'll be back in 3 days. Oh, right, I've given the servants time off too. With a soft click, the door shut, plunging the world into instant silence. I haven't recovered from the shock yet. Gu Yingan's ghostly voice sounded behind me. Keep going, Gu Yuanyuan. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.